in life are always worth taking. Love and money is always worth making. Just grab on and hold on tight. You're in for the ride of your life.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Beyond the Arc podcast. Dallas here, tuning in from Antarctica. Levi over in Tennessee. Levi, how's it going?
Oh, it's going, brother. How you doing?
Doing pretty well. It's freezing to death. It's currently like 9 degrees outside, so that's fun.
Yeah, it's feels like it's 16 here, but the sun's shining, so we've got the windows open to try to create a little bit of some heat in the household.
Absolutely. I was watching Carrie Underwood sing earlier just to try to warm the place up a little bit. That seemed to work pretty well. So Levi, I know you said you didn't really have much to say about Vanderbilt before we get started and go into all in my spiel. I did want to ask you one question about the game, and that is one of the topics that has been going around pretty much everywhere you go, looking at people talking about the game, and that is, would you have set Zakai Ziegler as long as Rick Barnes did?
That's the ultimate question. No, as a coach, if I was the coach, I don't really. I would trust a senior point guard. It's one thing if it's a freshman big man or something like that, like Felix Okpara. I understand sitting Felix. He doesn't have the basketball mental IQ that Zakai does. And I think you could even see in the second half when Zakai was defending the ball, I mean, even going through screens, he was keeping his hands like up to where the refs could even see anything going on. So I believe personally, I wouldn't have done it. I did see a stat that Tennessee ranks 336th in two foul participation, and there are 364 Division One teams. So that just lets you know that Rick Barnes is never going to play his guys if they have two fouls in the first half. Is it a smart method? I couldn't tell you that, Dallas. I guess it comes down to the coach. The coach is the one that makes that call. I personally would play a senior point guard in that perspective, but that's the kicker. You know, if you play Zakai and he picks up his third foul there, and they still go on a run, then you're even more in a hole, and he likely fouls out. So it's all hypothetical.
I agree. It's basically a hypothetical. I mean, personally, I believe I would have set Zakai. I don't know if I would have set him for as long as Barnes did. I believe he set him for the remainder of the first half. I think I would have set him maybe 3 or 4 minutes and sent him back out there. But one of the main issues you have with that is Tennessee's lack of depth at backup point guard. I mean, Jordan Gainey, wasn't at his best on against Vanderbilt. I believe that's easy to say. And I mean, with the way referees were calling everything at that game, I feel like probably sitting him for a little bit was the best move. But like I said, I think I would have brought him back before the half. Uh, I think the first half we ran some new stuff offensively, particularly for Chaz Lanier. You saw a few stagger screens, some stack screens, and a few pin downs, which is something we talked about last episode, how Tennessee was going to try and find Chaz some different looks offensively. It seemed to work a little bit there. Chaz had 17 points for the game. I feel like offensively, Tennessee done their job offensively the whole entire game. They shot like 48% from the field, 44, 46% from three. You can't ask for much better offensively. You had Okpara with 16 points, which I believe may be a Tennessee career high. Milicic with 16, Ziegler 16, and then as I mentioned, Lanier, the big bugaboo, going back, I love that word, going back to what I talked about a few episodes ago was the bench production. You only had 8 points from your bench. And then obviously Tennessee's defense just wasn't up to par that day. I mean, you could go against one of the teams that was shooting a three at the worst clip in the country. They're going up against one of the better teams at defending the three. I believe Tennessee's top three at 3-point defense. And Vanderbilt shoots 38.1% from three. You had Nickel, I believe, going off. I just feel like that was a game that no matter really what you've done, Vanderbilt was destined to win it. And you just chalk it up at the end of the day and hope you can get better and get back your win in Knoxville whenever they come to town. Do you have anything else you want to add, Levi?
No, I got nothing on that game. It's one of those. It's not as bad as the Florida game of just burning film, but it's one of those games where I think you just burn your film and you move on.
I agree. And I mean, there was that picture everyone's been talking about of the Vanderbilt player touching the ball that going out of bounds with 0.6 seconds. And like Tennessee should have got another look at it. And honestly, I don't think, I mean, yeah, by rule, Tennessee should have had the ball, but I just feel like that was a game Tennessee didn't deserve to win and Vanderbilt was just destined to win. But anyway, moving on to Mississippi State, Levi, since I spoke the majority of the time recapping Vanderbilt, I'll let you get us started with Mississippi State and what all you notes you may have.
Josh Hubbard, that's the notes. Josh Hubbard. They no longer have. Can't remember the big man's name from last year, Tolu Smith.
Yes.
That just absolutely ate us alive. They do have Kayshawn Murphy, big guy, 6'10", going to play bully ball down in the paint with us. We'll have to figure out a way to handle him, but they're particularly small. They start, 6'7", 6'4", 6'10", 5'11". It's going to be a fun little matchup between Zakai and Josh. Last year was fun. This year should be even more fun. I personally believe that this game could be played in the 50s if it goes the way I think it might. Nobody in Thompson Bowling wants it to be played that way. Obviously, we'd like to see some shooting get going, but it seems that teams have figured out that if they face guard Chaz, that our offense can be a little stagnant, and that's what Vanderbilt did, and that's likely what you're going to see from Mississippi State. They do not care to play almost a I wouldn't say it's a box in one, but Jans is really, really good at coming up with a defensive game plan, and his teams always play hard. So this game, I'd like Tennessee to win, but I'm not going to say I'm extremely confident. Torvik has it Tennessee by about 6, so 6.5. So I guess I could see that. I personally just really enjoy watching Josh Hubbard play basketball. So it's going to be kind of hard that I got to pull against him because he's one of my favorite players in the SEC to watch. They also have Cameron Matthews, who is your prototypical 3-4 guy, 6'7" senior, plays really hard, which is what you would expect from a Jans team, but they don't particularly shoot the ball that well. So this could work out for us, or it could be another Vanderbilt game where a team that typically shoots 30% from three decides that they're going to shoot 39. So those are my main takeaways. I don't know what you think. I don't know how you feel about this one, to be honest, because it's kind of, in my opinion, kind of a toss-up.
I come into it expecting Tennessee to come out defensively with their head on fire. I could see them possibly holding Mississippi State scoreless for a big portion of the beginning of the game. You mentioned Bart Torvik favors Tennessee by about 6 and 7. Not Mississippi State. Tennessee is favored 73 to 66 on Haslam metrics, which I feel like I could see happening. And yeah, I mean, containing Josh Hubbard, Riley Kugel, and Murphy, I think if you contain all three of those guys to below their average and keep Igor's positive momentum going, I thought towards the end of the Vanderbilt game that Igor found out some things offensively. He finally realized, hey, you know what? I'm a lot faster than some of these guys guarding me. I'm a lot quicker. So I'm just going to get to the rim and dunk the ball. And I think if he continues to do that, that possibly Tennessee could blow them out. I'm not going to say a blowout's like 20 points, but 15 points I feel like could be a blowout considering the competition you're going up against. I'm definitely going to give Tennessee the edge because it's on their home court. If this was in Starkville, I could see Tennessee losing, but I'm going to have to go with the Vols getting the win. Tuesday night against the Bulldogs. Is there anything else you want to add before we move on to Auburn, Levi?
No, not past the point that we really got to figure out a way to just if Josh Hubbard's able to get to the paint easily, we'll be in trouble. Now they'll get open looks. Will they hit them? That's as I said earlier. But we really have to figure out a way to keep Josh Hubbard from getting to the cup because believe it or not, at 5'11", the kid's a heck of a finisher. So you definitely got to. That's my X factor, Dallas, on this game is you have to be able to keep Josh Hubbard from just getting to the cup anytime he wants.
Agreed. And moving on to this weekend, Tennessee travels to Auburn, a place they have not won since 2017, believe it or not, when Admiral Schofield led the Vols with 18 points. I think the biggest question surrounding this game, Janai Broome. If he goes, I think it could be a tough night for the Vols. Even if he doesn't go, it could be a tough night, day, whatever time you want to say. I mean, Haslametrics favors Auburn 75-66. Chad Baker Mazzara, he's one of those guys that could go off in an instant, and Tennessee's going to have to contain him. But I really do think it comes down to Janai Broome. If he plays, I give Tennessee maybe a 10% chance. If he doesn't, and Tennessee can find some positive momentum coming off the Mississippi State game, I feel inclined to take the Vols to pull off a win that they would be much needed on the road. Levi, go ahead and give us your thoughts.
Yeah, you highlighted Chaz Baker Mazzara, just a really, really good basketball player. Overall, he's kind of dirty, which, what do you expect from a Bruce Pearl-led team? I can already tell you that one of our starters is going to be in foul trouble in this game, just because of the way that Bruce hounds the refs and just constantly thinks that his guys are being fouled. I don't think there's a chance that Broome plays, to be honest. I don't think that maybe Bruce cares about this game a lot more than I think, but I don't see any way that Broome can go after just such a terrible ankle injury.
I thought he broke
I don't see that. It was definitely dislocated. They can call it a sprain, but if you watch that ankle is not sitting in the correct angle. I'll just put it that way. But Denver Jones, another guy of theirs that's a really, really solid basketball player. And then they have Chaney Johnson as well. They're a deep team. They don't play a ton of guys, a ton of minutes, but they're way deeper than we are. Every time I bring up these T ranks and tempo free stats and stuff, it's almost incredible that Tennessee even stayed in the Vanderbilt game the other day. I mean, you're literally playing 8 guys because that's all you got, and you're playing 7 of them for quite a few minutes. So the fact that we had 2 guys sitting on the bench in foul trouble and we're playing just no offense, but just a pitiful offensive lineup, it's almost incredible that we actually made that a basketball game. So I'll give the guys credit for that. But Auburn's deep and they're tough, and they've looked just fine without Broome, other than the other night when they allowed Georgia to make a little bit of a comeback on them, and Georgia missed just a point blank layup to tie it up and send it to overtime. But that was at Georgia. And I will go ahead and say, Dallas, I give Tennessee a 0% chance to win this game with or without Janai Broome. The jungle's going to be rocking, and for some reason our guys just haven't handled that well this year. So I don't like Tennessee at all in this basketball game, regardless of if Broome plays or does not.
I have nothing I can argue there. I mean, just a quick mention. I forgot to mention this when we was talking about Vanderbilt. Tennessee scored, I believe it was 1.3 points per possession at Vanderbilt, which is pretty good. And I don't feel like you're going to lose many games when you're when you score 1.3 points per possession. Let's move on to our hardly known hoopers. Levi, I know you said you had a pretty entertaining one you want to get off your chest and let people know about. So go ahead and let people know who your hardly known hooper is.
I don't know if he's hardly known now. He plays for Iowa State, Milan Momcilovic. Not sure if you've ever watched Iowa State this year, Dallas, which I'm sure you have a couple times because they're a top team in the country. But his game's just really fun. He reminds me a lot of a younger Igor for us. Just that European style of play, which I don't know if people have noticed if they've listened to the podcast, but I tend to trend. Say that 5 times fast. But I tend to trend to guys that play that kind of old school fundamental basketball where they can pass, they can shoot, they can rebound, compared to just being like a freak athlete out there on the floor. So mine is Milan Momcilovic, which I practiced that about 40 times before we started up today. But he's a heck of a player. He shoots around 50% from the floor, averaging a little over 10 points a game, solid rebounder. Not as great of a passer as I guess you'd expect from a European style player. But if anybody does check out Iowa State, make sure you keep your eye on number 22. He's a big European looking forward that moves well, shoots the ball well. So my type of player.
Definitely an interesting pick, and I do want to add one more last thing on Auburn. I got lost in my head what I was going to say, but I feel like if Tennessee can withstand that first initial drought that Auburn brings to you at the beginning of the game, maybe even stop that, I think that would be key in the game. So moving on to my hardly known hooper, I have Bennett Sturts from Drake, former D2 player. Analytically, he lines up with draft year Tyrese Halliburton, Jalen Brunson, and Donovan Mitchell. He's a 6'4" point guard, just an absolute bucket. I mean, he's shooting 48% from the field, struggling a little bit from three, 30.1%, but all around just a great scorer. And he's just a junior, so we always talk about guys we would like to see in orange, maybe. And if it ever came about, Bennett Sturts would be an absolutely amazing pickup for any team in the country, not just Tennessee or SEC, whatever. And with that being said, let's move on, Levi, to our CBB pick'em. I know you probably would like to know the current record standings.
Yeah, you don't tweet them anymore since I've been in the lead. So yeah, go ahead.
It'll be tweeted tonight. I'm currently sitting at 11-13, which better. I went 2-2 last week. Levi, you're at 15-9. You went 3-1. If you hadn't switched your pick from Kentucky to Alabama, we both would have went 2-2. So I call rigging or some type of collusion there.
Dude,
but
you've rigged this thing the whole time, man. I'm fighting against the odds here.
Okay. But this week we have some I'm not going to lie, some not so entertaining, intriguing games. Some of them that's just games I had scraped from the bottom of the barrel. We spoke about it, and Tennessee was really in two of the most intriguing games of the week. And I didn't want to put Tennessee twice, so let's go ahead and get started here. Got Louisville at SMU. I'm going with Louisville. Pat Kelsey has Louisville playing pretty good ball right now. They're back in the top 25 for the first time in 4 years. Louisville is going to SMU for this game, but I give the Cards to pull one out and hopefully boost Tennessee's resume just a little bit. Levi, who do you have?
I like Louisville in this one. Pat Kelsey's done a heck of a job. I don't know if you saw they jumped into the AP top 25 today at number 25, so that was cool to see. It's crazy to me. Payne had to have been a Kentucky plant because I don't understand how you only win 12 games in 2 years. And then you turn around and get a whole brand new roster, basically made up of mid-major guys, and you're already looking like you're going to make the dance. So, but I do like Louisville a lot in that game. SMU's a solid basketball team, but I think Louisville will shoot them out the gym, to be honest.
So, are you just admitting you don't listen to anything I say whatsoever?
Probably.
15 seconds, I said they're back in the AP top 25 for the first time in about 4 years. And then within 30 seconds.
My fault. my cat jumped across my lap, okay? I was trying to mute my mic. So my cat's not like spazzing all over the place and knocking stuff over. So I did zone out for about 10 seconds right there. I will admit that.
We're good. We're good. Moving on, we have Michigan at Purdue. I went with the Wolverines. Danny Wolf is a pretty fun player to watch if no one's caught any Michigan games so far. Michigan, I believe, was favored. Purdue is favored by about 4 or 5, I do believe. But I'm going with the Wolverines to pick up a pretty big road win. Levi, who do you have?
I like Purdue in that one. I do like the fact you highlighted Danny Wolf because at Yale, that guy, he would have been a hardly known hooper last year for us if we'd have been doing this last year. I think at this point he's kind of a household name.
Yes.
Like you said, if nobody's watched him, then he's definitely a guy you need to keep your eye on. I've seen him like starting to skyrocket up the NBA drafts and stuff, so that's cool. But he's a really good player. But I like Purdue at home. For some reason, in that gym is just so weird, and the Big Ten's strange this year. After we get through this pick'em, I'd like to ask you a question. So we'll get to that later. But I'll take Purdue in that game.
You know, Danny Wolf is a player that when I watch, I think that that's what Igor Milicic could be for Tennessee. I don't know if it's a confidence thing or whatever, but I feel like that's the type of player that Igor Milicic can be if he were to reach his full potential. Moving on, we have Duke at Wake Forest. John Shire has Duke playing pretty well. I mean, I've been a big advocate that John Shire is overrated as a coach, but until he loses again, I have to give him some props. I'm going to go with Duke to pick up the win on the road at Wake. Levi, who do you have?
I'm going to take Wake Forest. Um, I don't trust John Shire, as you just stated. I don't. I don't think he's. I think he was kind of. He's the Ryan Day of college basketball at the moment. He got to take over standing on third base, and people are acting like he's done this miraculous job. But I like Wake Forest at home. Duke's gonna drop one, even though their schedule is basically playing against my high school the rest of their season. So I think this is maybe their best opportunity, that or at Clemson. So I'm going to take Wake Forest to upset Duke and hopefully bring them back down to ground level since everybody seems to think they're the best team in the country at the moment.
All right, moving on. We have Texas A&M at Texas. I took the Longhorns. They got a big win the other night on the road at Oklahoma. I know Oklahoma isn't necessarily lighting the world on fire right now in the SEC, but that's still a pretty hard place to play, and I'm hoping they can ride that momentum off and knock off a ranked A&M team and boost Tennessee's resume even more. If you notice, a lot of my picks are me kind of hoping that they can boost Tennessee's resume. Um, it's definitely not just me not knowing ball. It's definitely we all know I know ball, but anyway, I go with the
You know
Longhorns.
ball.
Yeah, I do. we go with I'm going with the Longhorns. Levi, who do you have?
I like Texas as well in that one. I don't really have a great reason for that, but I, that's just kind of a pick 'em game for me where I flipped a coin and it landed on heads. So I was like, well, we're going with Texas. So that's what we're going to roll with on that.
Awesome. And you said you had a question about the Big Ten, I believe?
Yeah, the Big Ten's so weird this year, and I was just wondering who you think could possibly win that league because it seems like the top has kind of separated itself. But I don't know if you watched the Michigan State Illinois game yesterday. Great game, but it there's really not a whole lot of teams in that league I think that are great. You have Purdue, Illinois, Michigan State, and Oregon, and then you got like a little bit of the rest with Michigan and teams like that. So I was just wondering who you thought was your favorite to win the Big Ten this year.
Right now, I mean, I think you have to go with either Michigan State, Purdue, or Michigan. One of those three teams. Michigan
Like
State's
you're
currently
going to count out Illinois?
it's tough because Michigan State's currently undefeated in the conference. They're 7-0. Illinois is sitting
Right.
at 5-3. I mean,
Yeah.
Michigan State would have to go on a pretty big losing streak, I believe, for Illinois to catch up with them. It's possible. I mean, it's just 2.5 games, but I think I'm
So
going to have to go with the top three currently.
let me rephrase my question. Who do you think the best team in the Big Ten is?
I think the best team's Illinois. I really do, and I'm not just saying
Yeah,
that
I agree
because of
with you there.
Tennessee. I think they
No,
are
I
the.
agree with you there.
I think they're the team that's most likely to make a deep run in March, and that's not always indicated of how good a team truly is. But I think that they are just they're a tough squad, and I think that's going to be one of the bigger wins in college basketball come the end of the season. When you look back and see that Tennessee was able to get the win on the road there. And Levi, normally we would wrap up here, but I actually put together a new segment that I decided I would leave as a surprise for you. It's not rigged before you ask. I'm calling this segment Pick or Row. We'll play on words of pick and row. I'm going to give three opinions, and you are either going to pick or row. When you pick, you're saying you agree with the opinion. When you row, you don't agree with the opinion. So starting out, Kevin Durant is not only better than LeBron James, but Kevin Durant is the greatest basketball player of all time.
I'm rolling on that one, dude. That's not
Yeah,
even a question. Come on now.
I.
Mm,
This is one
if you would have
thing.
said if you would have said the best scorer to ever play basketball, I would have said pick all day long. But no, not overall. Not as an overall basketball player. Kevin Durant is not better than LeBron James.
I have had that argument so many times, and I am never going to succeed that I'm wrong. But anyway, moving on. Sweet tea, and by the way, not all these questions are going to be sports related.
That's okay.
Sweet tea is better than unsweet tea.
Oh, that's a pick all day long.
Obviously, I figured you'd go pick, but there's some people that's just kind of weird, and
My boss
I
is, dude. He
yeah,
he swears by if you get an unsweet tea and you put lemon in it, that it's way better than just drinking sweet tea. And I'm like, nah, dude, like I don't care. Like I'm not a huge tea drinker. I know. Don't burn me alive for that. I don't really prefer sodas or tea. I drink a lot of water more than anything. Gatorades, waters, body armor, stuff like that. But if I do any tea, I'm going sweet. I'm not just gonna drink dirty leaf water for no reason.
have you tried the Ghost hydration drinks?
Yeah, they're pretty good,
Yeah,
honestly. They're not bad at all.
The Sour Patch Kids ones I really enjoy. The blue raspberry, and then there's a
Yeah.
strawberry, I believe. Moving on to the third and final topic. This one's kind of relative to current times. College basketball conference tournaments are extremely more entertaining than NFL divisional playoffs.
Pick, in my opinion, I guess that's a personal, these are opinion based here. So I
Yeah.
don't have to spit facts other than your first one. I spit facts on that one. But uh, yeah, for sure. I'm going to watch college basketball over anything, to be honest. It's the best
Agree.
sport in the world, in my opinion, and the best postseason in the world. The NFL has a great postseason layout, and the games yesterday were quite entertaining with the snow and all the cold weather. It's fun to watch
You,
sports like that, and both of them came down to almost, a do or die type play. I can't believe Mark Andrews dropped that 2 point conversion because he's just been such a sure handed guy. You got to feel for a guy that his entire career has always been sure handed and always made plays, and then he makes one bad play and everybody wants to come, try to roast him at the spit. So, but I don't think there's a better postseason in any sport than college basketball. Just March Madness and everything is pure pageantry, and you get great announcers, you get Kevin Harlan and Ian Eagle and all these guys. And to be honest, Dallas, I think the NFL announcers have fallen off so much that it's kind of dulled the game down for me a little bit.
have you seen the I don't even know how to say this, the imitations per se of Chris Collinsworth and Tony Romo on TikTok? It's like some Henry Markin, I think is his name. He goes around doing impressions of them.
Oh, I haven't done that. Is TikTok back? Everybody says it
Yes,
left and now it's back.
it's
I don't
back.
use
It's
TikTok.
He's not just on TikTok, but that's just the place that I first saw him. But his videos are hilarious. I'll send you a few of them after.
Oh, yeah, I do that.
But
Send them to me.
I feel like
Before we wrap up, I got one more thing to ask you since we're talking about social media.
go for it.
Have you ever watched any of the Who's Next sports videos?
You have to give me a little information. I'll be able to tell you.
He's got a Luke Kuechly one that's hilarious, where like in all of his videos he starts off just kind of like talking, and then he ends up like a rap song comes over and he's like yelling the rest of the time.
Oh no, no, I haven't
I'll have
seen
to
that.
send you the Paris Olympics one whenever Bogdanovic from Serbia was hitting the three to the dome against the USA Olympic team and stuff. I'll have to shoot you that one because I think you'll find a good kick out of that.
But yeah, going back to the college basketball tournaments over the NFL division playoffs. I mean, stop if you've heard this before. The Chiefs are going to be playing for the Super Bowl. The Bills are going to be playing for the Super Bowl. The Eagles. I mean, the only team that really is different this year is the Commanders. And as a Dallas Cowboys fan, I kind of hate to say it, but I think I may be rooting for the Commanders just to get a different team in there. You know what? No, Redskins. I'm rooting for the Redskins. I'm not going to call them the Commanders. That's just silly. But anyway, let's wrap it up here, and I'll get this edited and thrown out as soon as possible. If the
I got one more question for you, Dallas. I know I keep asking questions
Oh,
today.
you're
I'm not
good.
supposed to be the one. Your prediction for who wins the SEC?
Oh man, it's just it's it's literally a toss up, but I think I've got to go Auburn, man, because I mean they've looked unbeatable. I mean, no matter how close you stay within them, it just feels like you can't beat them. And hopefully Tennessee can take that and get the win on Saturday. But I feel like right now I have to go Auburn. Would you agree?
I agree. Follow-up question. What's more important, or what would you say is more impressive, winning the SEC regular title or winning the SEC tournament title?
I don't give a shit about the tournament title, so the regular season, without a doubt.
Yeah, I got into a nice little heated argument yesterday with, I guess, a fellow Tennessee fan, stating that we're coming off our best season in program history by winning the SEC title and winning and making it to the furthest we've ever made it in the tournament. And I was told that winning the SEC regular season is not impressive. So
I mean, in tournaments and basketball, it's just, especially tournaments that are single elimination, it's just so fluky and it's a crap shoot. I mean, just one day, all it takes is for one player or a team to go cold or for to get hot, and anything can happen. And I had the argument same about Rick Barnes. I mentioned that he was a Hall of Fame coach, and I had some person on Facebook. Obviously, I shouldn't be talking to people on Facebook, but saying that Rick Barnes does not have a title yet, so he can't be a Hall of Fame coach. And that just grinds my gears, to be honest, not to take away from Peter Griffin. But I mean, it's just like I said, it's a crapshoot in conference tournaments and the NCAA tournament. Obviously, it takes talent to win them, but it can just be any team. I mean, I'm honestly surprised, and it probably will happen, that a mid major hasn't won the title yet. I mean, I feel like Butler was probably considered a mid major. Would you consider Butler a mid major at the time they was making their run?
absolutely, yeah. I mean, what conference were they even playing in back then? I know they weren't in the Big East at the time.
Was it the
Uh,
American?
yeah, I think they were in either the American or the A10, something like that. So,
The A10 actually
but
sounds right. I can see the logo on the court now that you
yeah, I
mention it.
believe it was the A10. But I mean, the recruiting that and just the basketball knowledge that Brad has is one of the craziest things to me. He, in my opinion, should go into the NBA Hall of Fame and into the College Basketball Hall of Fame because there's not been any coaches like Brad in college ball in a long time. Just the sheer recruiting power that he did. I mean, he went and signed a bunch of guys that people were like, "Who the heck's this guy?" I mean, many of them made it to the NBA. So, and were pretty daggum good in the NBA. Gordon Hayward, plus others. So,
I mean, it's just, I mean, like you said, Brad Stevens is an amazing coach, and I feel like
yeah,
honestly, I give him more credit for the Celtics winning the title than I do Joe Mazzulla or obviously Jason Tatum. I mean, he's one of the key reasons I think Jason Tatum is probably a top five player in the NBA. I don't feel like that's too controversial of a take, but I
no,
feel
not at
like
all.
Brad Stevens put that team together, and he deserves just as much credit as anyone else in that organization. Well, let's wrap things up here, and we will be back next week with some brand new topics and hopefully to discuss a week that Tennessee went 2-0. From Dallas and Levi, we're signing off, and we'll see you next time.
Yes, sir. Take it easy, Dallas.
Take it easy, man.